Built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center in Sekeres and Price, a presentation of Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets, so whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION when opening that account. Matt Sekeres, alongside, virtually that is, Blake Price, continues to ail and heal up. Four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson hitting switches, conducting things with intern Jacob Fraser. We got a big show coming up for you on this U.S. Thanksgiving.
How is that U.S. Thanksgiving treating your team, Matthew Sekeres? No comment. Okay. It's hard to make him speechless.
These NFL officials are driving me crazy.
It's the officials.
Did you see the phantom horse collar or not?
I did not.
I mean, they have him stopped. It's 4th and 4. Down 9, chance to get the ball back, and a late flag comes out for a horse collar. That never actually happened. Non-reviewable. 15-yard penalty. Detroit scores. Now it's a 16-point game, but I digress.
Exhale.
I knew we were in trouble the second you picked them yesterday with the points. Anyways.
I was trying to be nice.
Did you see the hit Caleb took on his knee? And then throws the 31-yard touchdown dart in the next play? That's my quarterback.
He's a superhero. Okay. He's a superhero.
He really is. Especially with what he has to work with here. Pass protection's abysmal. Makes the Lions' pass protection look good. Okay. A Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Is it time to trade Nils Höglander? Yes or no? You can vote at the Sekeres and Price X and YouTube accounts. And really, we could have fired this poll question, given the way Höglander is going in Rick Tocchet's world, even before the injury of Filip Hronek.
Yes.
But now you have to wonder whether the urgency is upon them. And now you have to wonder whether they've waited too late and have surrendered leverage in trade negotiations here. Because needless to say, and we've been saying it all year, the Vancouver Canucks were one injury away from either of their top two defensemen, Quinn Hughes, Filip Hronek, from being in dire straits on that blue line, given the performance, the play of would-be second pair Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers. I voted yes on the poll, and I would have voted yes on the poll independent of the Hronek injury. That has only increased the urgency. Because, well, we're a quarter of the way through this season. It is another arc of step forward, step back for Nils Höglander. I don't think he is ever going to mesh with Rick Tocchet-style hockey. They have pretty decent winger depth, and I don't think they should wait on this thing any longer, lest Höglander's value decrease from here. It's still a very good contract for this year. I mean, it's just over $1 million. It's still a very easy extension to digest, $3 million per over the next 3 years, starting next year. He's still coming off 25 goals, all at even strength.
24, yeah.
And 24. And let's face it, there are teams out there that need offense. He can provide offense. He's a scrappy, fiery player. He's going to endear himself to other coaches. Yeah, okay, he may never be a good defensive player, and the hockey IQ may just be a step short, but I think there are other teams that can accommodate his warts more so than Tocchet with his non-negotiables. So, yeah, I think it's time to act. I think it's time to act with some degree of urgency because I'm just not sure how much winning you can do with Filip Hronek out of the lineup. And it does look like Filip Hronek is going to be out of the lineup for some time.
My answer is yes, too, but it's a more nonplussed yes. First of all, I hope he's still got some tradability.
He does.
Because he's a 23-year-old that's recently a 24-goal scorer. Twice now has been on a 20-goal pace.
Exactly.
So usually that holds.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would, but
I see this doom and gloom from Canucks fans on him. No. that is still an asset. That's still a pretty decent asset.
Here's the hang-up, though. Here's the hang-up. This is why I'm nonplussed by this. It's a $1 million cap hit. Trading him, it gets you incrementally closer to that top 4 D-man that you so covet, Canucks fans. But trading him alone does not do it for you. Like, if people really want certified top 4 talent there, costs them a lot more under the cap than the space that the Canucks would have, even with the loss of Nils Höglander.
But I think it always was, unless Nils Höglander was going to have an incredible start to this season and they were going to sell high on him.
Top 4 defensemen,
top 4 defensemen, particularly right side top 4 defensemen, cost more than middle 6 wingers.
But it's not even about that, Matt. It's about cap space. So, like, Lekramaki still doesn't make it work. Like, if you're like, you need significant cap space here, and
you can. I mean, it depends on who you're targeting. It also depends on whether that team is willing to retain. And yes, it is probably going to cost you a second asset beyond Nils Höglander. And I think that's. I think that's the price you have to be willing to pay here, because I think that's the price that you had to be willing to pay even before this Hronek injury and even before Höglander took a step back here over the last 10 games.
I just think that people have to wrap their heads around, if there is a trade made, it may mean the deletion of yet another name off the active roster that we see before us right now. Like, it may not just be an AHL player or a prospect. I don't know where they get the cap space for a decent player. Like, if it's a role player, sure.
Well, Hronek could go on LTIR here, Blake. I mean, and we'll discuss it later.
They're not at the cap, so they don't get LTIR until either.
Well, they don't maximize LTIR, but yes, I hear what you're saying. And we'll get into it here, but that was always going to be an inevitability for me. I did not see a world whereby they were going to be able to continually accrue cap space and get to deadline season with having all this cap space. There was likely to be a big injury, especially after last year when all their top players, like virtually nobody, got hurt all year. It's a law of averages thing. You got lucky last year on injuries. You're not getting lucky this year. Stood to reason. Last chance to take advantage on specials on 2024 models at Surrey Mitsubishi. And when you trade in any vehicle for a new 2024, Surrey Mitsubishi is going to give you $3,000 above market value for your trade. You take advantage of rates as low as 1.99%. The extended warranty on the 2024 PHEV at no charge plus $1,000 credit towards winter tires, only while inventory lasts, only at Surrey Mitsubishi, 13820 104th Avenue in Surrey, online at surreymitsubishi.ca. We'll get to our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Lose a game, but suffer a bigger loss in Filip Hronek. The Canucks' top right side defenseman is out week to week. Irf Gaffar doing some reporting here, saying wants to add that it doesn't look like surgery is going to be required for the injury, which is some good news. The question, Blake, can they succeed without Hronek?
Unlikely, given the way the defense has played to this point already. This is going to be a big ask. It dovetails into the other question, though, that we will be discussing throughout the course of this show, is the goaltending question. Because, with Kevin Lankinen playing like he was 2 nights ago, I don't know if it matters who was playing defense. He wasn't going to let a puck past him. But, if Demko still needs another week and a half. Like, who knows? We keep thinking he's a night away. If he needs another week and a half,
one of these next 2 games.
I think that's probable as well. Until I see it, I won't believe it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And does that mean a Yuri Patera start somewhere along the way? Because I don't think that you're starting Arturs Silovs again. I really don't.
No. And you're playing Lankinen until Demko's ready to go.
Which, we got a lot of games coming up here, so it's going to be interesting.
Hronek is 25th. This is from Noah Strang of the Daily Hive. Filip Hronek is 25th among all defensemen in points since the start of last season. He's 10th amongst right-handed blue liners. And, of course, he unlocks Quinn Hughes and has allowed Hughes to have one Norris Trophy winning season. And, of course, what Hughes is doing through the first quarter of this year, where he leads the Vancouver Canucks in points. So he's a linchpin guy. I've said it many times. In fact, Hughes is now 5 points ahead of anybody on the Canucks. Have you seen this, too? I know we were all talking about, oh, look at the goal derby. Like, everybody's got 6 goals, and now Pettersson and Suter have 7. But Hughes has got a 5-point lead over Connor Garland in the team scoring race. Look, well, answer me the question is LTIR now inevitable for you, Blake? Are they going to have to bite the bullet here, create some cap space?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So they got to trade for somebody that's, bigger money, then immediately put Hronek on LTIR. Well, what?
So, David Jiricek is out there. Columbus has still not traded him. He's $1 million guy.
Mm-hmm.
He fits seamlessly with Höglander. You're going to have to give up more than Höglander, I suspect, to get him because he's a recent 6th overall pick. And although the talk today is that the Columbus would now take a pick at a prospect, but
he's not a top 4 guy. Like, he's in the AHL right now, last I checked. So, like, you're asking him to carry some load that he's never carried before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay with that trade as a future trade for the next couple of years, by all means. But that's not immediate help.
The advantage of Jiricek, and this would be the same of a few other defensemen that are there on the market, Blake, you kind of need term in the guy that you're getting back. Or you're probably on the market again in the summer for this profile of player. Because when you look at the Canucks depth chart and people they have under contract for next season, Hughes, Hronek, are you running back Susie Myers again as a second pair next year? Probably not, right? Maybe you have hopes that Cole McWard can be an NHL defenseman.
Tom Wielander
as soon as this
coming
year,
out of
next
school.
Year. What's that? Tom Wielander
coming out of school.
That would be a really big ask of Wielander to play second pair minutes in his rookie NHL season. So, I think you're looking for a defenseman with term if you can find a defenseman with term. And especially after last year where you kind of got burnt in that you gave up assets for 2 rentals in Zadorov and Lindholm and weren't able to re-sign either of them. So, yeah, there's a lot of options available here for Canucks brass, and it's going to be interesting to see, A, how urgent they are, and B, whether they look at this acquisition as a patch the dam this year piece or something that's going to fit into the greater plan on a go-forward basis.
Well, I'm worried that the cost of acquisition for anybody with a bigger cap hit is also just going to be exorbitant. Like, is it a fait accompli that one of Wielander or Lekramaki is gone by the middle part of this season because they have to pay the piper to keep this team competitive?
I think the first-round pick, the 2025 first-round pick is the first big
that gets you part of the way there.
Go.
I don't think it gets you all the way, though. Like, I don't think there's many people that are trading that.
It depends who the defenseman is. Mm-hmm. Bowen Byram probably takes more than that.
Savard, less than that. David Savard, less than that.
David Savard, some of the other defensemen we've heard are available. Yeah. What are our friends at Yellow Dog Neighborhood up to?
Well, they've got the Yellow Dog Brewing Box of Tricks mix pack. You can choose between the classic High Five Hazy, 2 brand new brews in the Wander Tropical and Liquid Neon Juicy Pale Ale, and the limited release Ultra Color Amber IPA that they've taken out of the Yellow Dog Vault. They're like Taylor Swift. They've got stuff in the vault that they'll bring back every now and then just to placate the masses. All from Yellow Dog Brewing.
5-4 loss in Pittsburgh. They fall short of the club record for consecutive road wins, 9. They get to 8. And now they need Thatcher Demko this weekend. Arturs Silovs, once again, is your losing goaltender here, and once again has him a tough evening in the cage. He falls to 1-4-1 on the season, and in fact, heading into the game, I saw the note from Jeff. Him and Delta's Tristan Jarry were 1-3-1 heading into this one. But the goals against average is now .411. The save percentage is .847. His lone win on the season was against a putrid Blackhawks team, and they absolutely cannot play him again in the NHL right now. He needs to go down to Abbotsford and continue working on his game. This from our old buddy and producer, Eddie Gregory. First goal allowed this season. First goal allowed per game this season. Pittsburgh scored on the first shot. The Rangers scored on the first shot. His last two starts. Chicago scored on the third shot. Edmonton the fifth. Jersey the first. Tampa the fifth. Calgary the third. He's been beaten by the first shot 3 times, and the first goal has gone in within the first 5 shots every single start. Remember back in the day when we used to talk about Jacob Markstrom? Great goaltender, but wow, first shot, first shift, first period, not his best work. Shilovs has taken that to a extended consequence.
Only he's not as good as Markstrom, so you don't expect him to shut the door after that.
So you don't exactly. So look, you have to send him back to Abbey and get him developing and getting his confidence back. Here's Rick Tocchet, who, needless to say, was not thrilled with his goalie.
Yeah, he's struggling. He's got to battle. He's got to get bigger in the net and battle. It's the NHL. It is what it is. You got to work tomorrow and get his game. It's the goalmouth stuff that it seems to be going in all year, and I think he's just got to get a little bit bigger in there. I don't know. I have to talk to Marco, the goalie coach, but it just seems like, I guess when you don't have confidence, you sink in your net. So, he's got to battle. It's like everybody. When you're struggling, you got to battle through it.
I don't know what it is. He's just got to fix it is basically what he's saying there. And it's funny, we said that the book on Shilovs during the playoffs, just float the pucks in from the point. He has trouble seeing through traffic. Mm-hmm. And now Rick Tocchet seems to think it's the stuff right on his doorstep that seems to be the issue. And I saw that yesterday as well, that pucks right at the edge of the crease. He's just, like, Lankinen is so good there. He is rock solid with those pucks down low. And Shilovs is the opposite.
Sheila spoke to Sportsnet post-game, quote, "You wait for your opportunity, and then it's like 4-1 in the first period. So it's hard, but I'm just trying to push through, trying to shut it down as much as I can." He last played against the New York Rangers 8 days ago. He lost the game. And, Blake, I'll go back to that one because we thought that was a curious call from Tocchet and Terranius. We thought that was a curious call because, look, he had won the game against Chicago on the weekend when he had to play in the back-to-backs. And Lankinen had lost. But Lankinen had been your guy, and he had 3 days off after the Rangers game before you were going into Ottawa last Saturday. So, yeah, from an organizational standpoint, you want Arturs to succeed. You want Arturs to be the starting goalie when Thatcher Demko's not there because he's a young guy under contract, club controlled, and all of those things, whereas Lankinen's basically a one-year mercenary here to patch the dam and get you through this Demko injury. So I can understand the hoping that Shilovs was back. Alas, he wasn't, and now you got a situation on your hand where, if Demko isn't ready, you got to consider Patera, and I'm not sure you want to consider Patera. Bigger question, is he missing Ian Clark? Remember, he played those handful of NHL games at the end of not last year, but the previous season. He looked pretty good. He was back down in Abbotsford last year, and he struggled some under Marco Terranius. His best work has come under Ian Clark. Ian Clark's no longer the goaltender coach here. Is he missing Ian Clark?
I have trouble believing that. I have trouble believing. I think Ian Clark is a great goaltending coach. I have no doubts about that. But the deification of the man as if he just turns rubble into Vezina caliber goalies, I just refuse to believe that he leaves and a goaltender crumbles. Let's remember, Arturs Silovs was a nice project. This was not a certified prospect from the get-go. He was a project. Mm-hmm. And he had a nice run with the Canucks in the playoffs, no doubt about it. But he was overachieving. It's not like he was realizing he was not Thatcher Demko. He did not have that pedigree coming into the league. So the fact that he looks like he does now, this is the way Arturs Silovs was kind of supposed to look. What we saw in the playoffs was not supposed to be Arturs Silovs.
Well, so I think we have to look this bad.
Well, Matt, he's an unpedigree goalie.
I do agree that you shouldn't crumble because your goaltender coach is no longer there. But I also look at Clark's track record and say to myself, he obviously has some skills. He obviously makes his goaltenders better.
But he's had great goalies to work with here.
But he's also turned goalies into good players. Let's not forget that too.
Like whom?
He's worked with guys who haven't exactly been the top prospects, and he's turned them into great goalies.
Well, but nothing the Canucks have needed to lean on. Like, it's been Markstrom and Demko. Like, those are amazing goalies from the get-go. Like, he's had really good clay to work with here. He's maybe turned, nothing goalies into prospect goalies, and that's still worth something. I'm not saying it's not worth something, but he hasn't turned them into everyday, lean-on-them kind of players. So I think Arturs Silovs is Arturs Silovs, and I think we saw a nice run. We saw the Hamburglar of his time, basically. Andrew Hammond reincarnate as Arturs Silovs. I think that might have been the high watermark. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I saw Irf tweet, no matter what happens, you do not for any reason rush Thatcher Demko back. He plays when he plays, however long that takes. I think that's fair. I think it's going to probably wind up being moot because I think Demko should be good to go here over the next two.
Yeah.
But let's just play it out. Let's say Thatcher can't play on this trip or can't play till the Minnesota game Tuesday. Just go Lankinen in these back-to-back matinees.
I mean, if Thatcher Demko's not ready, he ain't ready. So I think that's all you can do.
Lankinen.
Yeah.
I also, this was a smart tweet from Thomas Drance, the Athletic. The loss to the Penguins is one thing. And look, it's a second of a back-to-back, which is never easy, albeit that's a dreadful hockey team. But he says the real cost is the energy expended chasing a game that got away early. He just plays 27-plus minutes, Blake.
Yeah.
Hronek played 26 before he left. And it was a reasonably tame check from St. Ivany, the Pittsburgh defenseman. It just looked like he hit that right shoulder in an awkward spot, dasher, and you can tell the pain is immediate. But, playing out Thomas's tweet and scenario, you leaned on your top pair last night, and you've got a situation now where you're asking them to turn around and do, for us it's a noon start, it's a 3 p.m. Eastern start in Buffalo tomorrow, and then turn around and a noon start in Detroit on Sunday.
Yeah, the Hronek injury, first off, it's a freak injury. I don't even know if the dasher, it's right near the dasher. I think it's right below. I think he still hits flat board, but it's a freak injury. It's a freak injury regardless. Like, there was not a lot of ferocity there, and even if you hit the dasher, your throw shoulder pads are meant to deal with all that sort of stuff on a regular basis.
Blake just got some news from Jeff. Reports that Mark Friedman is now showing on the Vancouver Canucks roster. Arshdeep Bains is not. So, yes, it looks like Mark Friedman, who has experience playing the right side in the NHL, has been recalled here in the absence of Hronek.
And you wonder,
go ahead.
Early game yesterday, is there a chance he would have been able to get on a plane last night? Probably not. Probably this morning. So he'll have a long day of travel and then be an option for the Canucks, obviously, tomorrow in Buffalo.
So, question. Mm-hmm. Is Myers playing with Hughes now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Myers and Hughes.
Honestly, I think that's your only option, Blake. Like, I don't think you can play Desharnais and Juleson with Hughes.
And you go Susie Juleson or Susie Friedman? I mean, games played in the NHL, they're probably pretty close, Friedman and Juleson.
Yeah.
In fact, I would bet Friedman might even have more.
I played Juleson, Brandstrom, and Susie Desharnais.
Susie Brandstrom on the offside?
Oh, sorry. No. I play Brandstrom, Juleson, and Susie Desharnais.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't necessarily feel great about any of that.
No, none of that sounds appetizing.
Yeah. Chris Johnston reporting there are 8 teams still in on Juracek from Columbus. Minnesota is thought to be the front runner here, but he name checks the Canucks and says Nashville, Pittsburgh, Philly, and Montreal also in. CBJ will consider a pick and a prospect package now.
Imagine what the follow-up call from the Canucks sounds like. Totally unrelated to last night's game. Just checking in. Just checking in.
Don. So, you know what you were talking about yesterday?
It's sounding better. It's sounding better.
Yeah, no, we've talked with our guys. They Oh, my. We talked about Aatu Räty earlier in the week, and you asked for bottom line production. And fair enough. Like, it was 2 points in 13 games. It's a nice goal last night. That's a nice goal last night off a damn good shift. I think he's surpassing Nils Höglander before our eyes. I realize one plays center and one plays wing, but when you get down to who you're scratching, because I do wonder whether they're a better team with Aatu Räty holding down the fourth line center role and Pius Suter playing on the wing, where he scores his 7th goal of the season last night to tie for the club lead with Petey. And having 5 centers available to you at any given time, right? If you were to lose the center in game, this of course when Miller is back. But yeah, I like what I see from Aatu Räty here. I think he is burrowing his way into regular duty.
Well, and Matt,
Vancouver
most importantly, I think it allows us to graduate from the Nils Åman era. And not that Aatu Räty's production is greatly better or even better at all than Åman.
Not yet.
It's probably, but you can see
but it
that
will be.
It's slated to be. You can see that there's more skill there.
No, he's a more gifted player with the puck. I mean, again, 16 years old, people thought this guy could go first overall in the draft. So, no, there is a lot more there with Aatu Räty than there ever was with.
And you don't sacrifice his size. He's big too. Åman was big, which they like, but
well, and he's better at faceoffs. Like Åman, if you're going to play center, you got to win some faceoff. Like this 40% business won't cut it. Yeah, exactly. And Petey last night, he lays out Tomasino with that hit, 2-point night. I think he's going to be the top centerman on the Swedish Four Nations team. Zibanejad is there. Lindholm might be playing his way off that team. Sweden's not great at center ice. I get the sense that Elias Pettersson might be in line for some really big duty if this continues with the Swedish national team. You got Zibanejad, Pettersson, Eriksson Ek, although he profiles a little bit more down lineup.
Yeah.
A little too early probably for Leo Carlsson, who's got great potential. And if that's the case, Blake, like, it's probably going to play with guys like Nylander, Forsberg, maybe Bratt, Raymond. Anyways, the points continue for Elias Pettersson. And that's a good thing. And we should also give the Canucks credit because, I mean, this game looks over early and they fight back and they make it a one-shot game late. And Petey was talking about that in the postgame. Take a listen.
Yeah, I like the battle back from us, but we can't come up with effort like that to start and expect to win a game. Got to be better, and especially start on time. We don't give Artie any help back there.
Score effect's obviously a big part there, but good on them for at least having it. And the Hughes goal more important, Matt, because the Hughes goal comes so early in the period that you think,
well,
the
Hughes goal,
maybe.
How many guys score the Hughes goal? I mean, that is the benefit of having a player like Quinn Hughes on your team.
Yeah.
But, talking Hughes and Pettersson all mentioned the starts. And, of course, the starts were an issue earlier in the season as well. And you say score effect, and you're right, don't get me wrong, but that's a team that has blown a ton of leads in the third period. So, they were schwitzing as that third period went along, going, oh, my God, here we go again. Look, I saw everybody griping about. Tell me if you agree with this. It has been a relatively tame year on Canucks Twitter for complaints about the officiating. I mean, game to game, period to period, you can go there and find it if that's what you're looking for. But I don't remember too many games through 20. And if this is the case, then we should stick tap to the NHL referees. I don't remember many games this year, Blake, where we've been screaming bloody murder about the officiating. Soft penalties late on Garland and Ratu. Ratu's technically is interference. He does impede Crosby's path to the puck. Garland's was, and you don't blame officiating when you are down that many goals. I mean, the Canucks lost the game in the first period, not because of the 2 late penalties in the third, but they were reasonably soft. And am I right? Like, officiating hasn't really been that big an issue this year.
Obviously
the
Quinn Hughes ejection was topic of conversation, but it had more to do with the rule than the officiating itself per se.
Yep.
But I mean, let's face it, they also had a decent quarter. Like, it wasn't a great quarter of hockey, but their first quarter of the season, they've still got a decent amount of wins there. You know, they're in a playoff spot, and when you're winning more games than you're losing, outright at least, you don't sift through and find out where things have gone wrong as much, you know? So, no, I don't think it's been a topic of conversation. I don't think it was a grand topic last year, though, either, when they were so good, right? Again, you don't feel as hard done by when you're winning games.
Yep, that's fair. And you're right. Hughes on the weekend, but it was more that the rule sucks as opposed to the call, because the rule is black and white. And again, if you want to find it, it's there. But for the most part, I haven't heard a lot of hue and cry about the officiating through a quarter of the NHL season, which is a pretty significant sample size. So
interference, by the way, interference is like a penalty on the offensive line or on the line of scrimmage.
You can almost
always find it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yep. And I mean, he does alter his path to get in Sidney's way to prevent him from going to the puck, Sid gets hit in the mouth or face or whatnot. Sidney Crosby's going to get that call. I loved this tweet from Scott Wheeler of The Athletic. And you tell me whether you abide. Wheeler, hear me out, and I'm serious. I have a theory that every team in the NHL is bad this year, or alternatively, that there isn't a single great team in the league this season.
I like the second half of that more.
Spot fucking on, Scott. At the beginning of the year, Blake, when we were doing our Stanley Cup picks, I'm looking up and down these team rosters, and of course, Edmonton is everybody's cup favorite, the betting favorite by Bet365, and I go, still think they have some pretty big goal prevention problems in Edmonton.
For sure.
Still not sold on their goaltender, especially in conjunction with their defenseman. I look at Florida as the defending cup champion and a team that's been to 2 straight finals and go, yeah, it's a pretty good team, but they're weaker than they were last year. I mean, they had some free agent defections. Montour, right side defenseman. I looked at Dallas, who I really loved last year. They were my pick to win it last year. And I went, I don't think Dallas is as good as they used to be, as they were last year on paper.
And then even the teams that are leading the teams that are leading their divisions right now. Like, are you putting wild sums of money on the Winnipeg Jets to win the Stanley Cup this year?
Winnipeg had the incredible start. They're 18-5. That's extraordinary. I don't think they're that sustainable. Minnesota's off to a very good start. I think Minnesota's a good team. I like them as a playoff team, but 14-4-4, regression of the mean is coming there. I told you I liked Vegas coming back after the first round exit. I thought there would be, the bit between their teeth. They're having a good season.
They're a very good team, and there are very good teams.
Sure it's a great team.
Right. There's a difference between
Rangers
very good and great.
Carolina looks to be the same as they always are. Leafs may have fixed their goal prevention issues, but that bottom 6 is woo.
Noah Strang did a tiered system for teams after 20 games, and he had the Leafs at the top. And I'm thinking, okay, I mean, I see the record, but how do you put the Leafs at the top? And he had the Avs on tier 3.
Yeah, Colorado's been a huge disappointment. They cannot get a save in Denver,
and maybe that's the other grand. Is that the other grand takeaway here? Like, there's no goaltending in this league.
That it could be that. Like the Jersey collection of players, they're doing well, but let's see. I'm certainly not going to crown them based on the way they played last year.
No.
So, no, I mean, I look around the league, Edmonton's struggling again. I don't think there is a great team this year. So, and look, that'll change by the trade deadline. I think one of the reasons why you look at a Florida, you look at a Dallas, and you say, okay, they're not as good as they were last year. It's because, last year you're looking at them post-trade deadline and what they've been able to add to their lineup. So that'll change. And, who knows if Winnipeg keeps this up and then adds from here, perhaps they become a great team. But let's play it out. If there are no great teams this year, all the more reason to go all in if you're the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, there's two ways to think about that. You could argue it your way, or you could argue it there's no panic because there's no great teams here. Don't make a move you're going to regret because the season is a long one and there might be better options down the road, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you can argue it in any way you want there. In the end, I think that you'll be competitive going into the playoffs if you're the Vancouver Canucks. But if you see a way to make yourself a certified better team, then I think you got to do it. And again, like if we talk about a guy like a David Jiricek in a trade, like are you getting yourself significantly better for this year? Saying nothing about what it does for you in years to come. But if your idea is to be a contender this year, I don't know that picking up a young player like that is necessarily going to be it.
No, I hear you.
But who's the player that's available that does do that for you?
Yeah.
Again, I don't know.
I'll say this. Beating Buffalo tomorrow could have ancillary benefits, right? The Sabres at one point
Dango Byram a couple of times, something like that. It wouldn't say much about what you'd be acquiring, but yes.
And I'm just thinking out loud here, so don't nobody hold me to this and come back months later and say, oh, Sekeres was willing to give up, this. But you're Rutherford and Alvin right now. You look around the league and you go, this is probably a more winnable year than many others if there are no great teams. We're missing a huge part of our lineup in Hronek. Again, a lot of factors went into it, but you can argue that Filip Hronek was the chief reason or one of the top few reasons why the Vancouver Canucks were able to turn it around from being losing team, losing franchise organization, not making the playoffs into the team that they were last year, regular season Pacific champions. If ever there was a time to make the huge Stones trade, would it be now? Would you do a first and Wielander for Byram? Those sorts of moves. Let's remember, Blake, Rutherford towards the end of his Pittsburgh tenure just kept on making trades and trying to position the Pittsburgh Penguins to go for it, to finally get back to the Cup or get over the first round. They were having all sorts of troubles maintaining contender status, and Rutherford was making moves, positioning himself as though he was a contender, trying to get that back, grasping at that brass ring. I wonder, I think it's a pretty interesting conversation that has to be going on in the Canucks offices this morning, digesting this Hronek news, knowing you're going to be without a key player for weeks here, because it is a week-to-week injury. This is not going to be he'll be back Tuesday sort of thing. Knowing what's out there, seeing what's out there, and as we also know, as early movers, trying to get a jump on the competition.
I think that would not blow me away if they do a massive trade. But I think in their mind, they're thinking, heck, last year we got Nikita Zadorov for a fifth and a third. Where's that guy this year?
Well, but that was a guy that Flames room wanted out, right? So that was exceptional circumstances. We've already seen that lesser defensemen have gone for about that on the trade market. So I don't think you're going to be able to replicate that. The notion, and I heard it earlier this week, they're going to wait and see until Miller gets back and see when everyone's back and see what they have. I understood that. I didn't wholly believe that. I understood that from the standpoint of they would love to be able to continue winning games and accrue cap space and not go into LTIR and make a trade for a defenseman or two closer to the deadline and call that a year in terms of managing. But I also think it was a little bit expectant and a little bit foolhardy to think that you were going to be able to all those things would align to be able to manage this season and this roster as tidily as that narrative suggested. It's U.S. Thanksgiving. You're a quarter of the way through the season.
I think you know what you are.
You know your defense poor. Yeah. You know you need one or two. And you also know that other teams, contenders, rivals even, are going to be out there on the same trade market that you are. So I wondered whether that was a little bit of smokescreen being signaled by Canucks brass. I think that these guys are as proactive as any management group in the league. Rutherford had the huge history of making early moves. Alvin followed instead last year. It followed in that vein last year. I think the Vancouver Canucks are absolutely going to be aggressive here on this trade market.
From the position player front, I think they know exactly what they are. But let me ask you this. If they are just buying time to see when Demko comes back and to see what kind of form he's in, I could understand that. Because if he comes back and he's sustainable and they say 2-3 weeks of work out of him and they're not overplaying him, but they're playing him interspersed with Lankinen, and that's going tickety-boo, Matt, they've got the best goaltending in the league, hands down. Yep. And with that in mind, they would probably convince themselves, we only need one defenseman. We don't need two.
Okay. And if that's the case, and Thatcher himself has said, look, I don't expect to be right back to form as soon as I get in there, so I think you're a few weeks away from even being able to test this theory. But if that's the case, is that an all the more reason to go all in? And conversely, and, let's just say that Thatcher is just not going to be right this year. That because this injury is so unique, because there's no roadmap, no playbook, it continues to bother him, or at least it hinders his effectiveness. Is this the reason? Is that a reason not to go all in and say, you know what? We got Demko for one more year next year. We got Quinn for 2. We'll have to find a replacement for Besser, but let's put eggs in the 25-26.
They've got a lot of question marks right now. There's no question. There's no question about that.
I
No question
don't
about the
think
question
that's
marks.
Yeah, I don't think that's their instinct or inclination. I don't think that's what the owner wants to hear, and I think oftentimes that's the drumbeat to which this organization marches.
They're not a safe management group. They don't play safe. And
no, exactly. All of those
things. As you brought up, the president is aging. He wants to see a winner sooner rather than
exactly.
later.
So I don't think that's the case. I would not put money on that. But that may be a reality that they have to face and succumb to later in the season if things go poorly. Are you okay with Jordan Binnington as the starting goaltender for Canada?
I don't want to
at the Four Nations.
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about it another time.
Just...
He became the all-time leader for the St. Louis Blues last night in wins. Just putting that out there. And the good news is Charlie Lindgren is American, if you saw his gaffe last night. Although, and I saw a great tweet about this, he makes some terrific saves late in that game, and they win it. He scores on his own net, but he totally redeems himself, and the Washington Capitals are able to win that game in Tampa. Quite a folly, though. Quite a blooper.
I hope we find a Canadian goalie before there's an international tournament I care about. I hope that gets discovered.
Blake's going to tell you about the Nation Network Black Friday sale here in a second. First, I'm going to tell you about Greta Bar, which is the sponsor to our menu today, as it is every day. It's a fantastic spot for all the games, home and away. We'll be there for some Canucks Army viewing parties over the course of the season. Your minutes from the arena, steps from the stadium. They got the great street food menu. The smash burger is a personal favorite. The arcade is fantastic. Circles the bar. Weekly drink specials at Greta, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar. Let the games begin. We have Patrick Johnston coming up. He came in studio for us today. such a good guy. He was downtown anyways. Tackle all the questions with the Canucks here. Hronek, who plays with Hughes, Shilovs, Juracek, and others. And then the former head coach of Vancouver Whitecaps FC, Vanni Sartini. He is back here in town. We reached out to him just to say, thank you for the last 3+ years. You're always accessible to us. A fantastic professional. We really enjoyed talking to you and working with you. And sure enough, Vanni, being the guy that he is, agreed to come on the show. It's been a difficult week, but agreed to come on the show and answer the questions. So we have that coming up as well. And I want to shout out listener Tim on Twitter, who reached out to me yesterday and says, Matty, any S&P hats coming? Yeah, they're there at the Nation Gear store. And we got a Black Friday sale going on.
We'll talk more about it tomorrow, but it starts tomorrow. Make sure you check it all out at nationgear.ca.
Okay, time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. This segment brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Sekeres and Price. Blake, I'm going to give you the honors again here.
Okay.
Off the tee. We like what you got.
You know who's going to be on overdrive with Filip Hronek going down? It's his pairing mate. Quinn Hughes is going to get 2 points come hill or high water. Plus 250. That's all. Plus 250 for 2 points for Quinn Hughes, which I feel he'll get with bells on. No problem.
And I give you the honors, Blake, because while all look lost earlier after that horrible phantom horse collar, Bears are down 3 with the ball at midfield. So looks like you're going to cover here. You're 9.5.
With 2 minutes left to play, yeah. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't even know how long my win streak is, but it's long. Honestly, it's really long.
No, you've done pretty well. Like, and this one looked lost, but it was 23-7. It was 23-7 a minute into the fourth quarter. But here come the Bears. Caleb Williams, 3 touchdown passes. Okay. Sub-zero temperatures in Green Bay tonight. If you're Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins and you see the schedule come out and you say, you got to be fucking kidding me. Okay, we have to play in Green Bay this year. Fair enough. But at night in late November on Thanksgiving Day, the Miami Dolphins, who, of course, practice in that Florida steam, have lost 11 straight games when the temperature drops below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. They're expecting lows in the high teens tonight at Lambeau. The Finns have just 1 win in 32 years when the temperature hits 23 or below. It's not a huge sample there, but that's the point. This team doesn't play in these conditions very often, if ever. So much as it disgusts me, I'm taking the Packers minus 185 on the money line tonight.
You're getting support on the chat. Light Engine says Tua can't play in the cold, but they might win this one.
Tua's from Hawaii. He played his college ball at Alabama and now practices in South Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't look. Brett Favre was a Southern boy and wound up doing just fine in the cold. If Tua goes on to win some games in the cold, then I might recast. But for now, give me the Packers. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION when opening that account. Patrick Johnston coming up next.
I'll be honest, I don't get to many games anymore, whether it be at the arena or the stadium. Ticket availability cost, it's a bit of an issue these days. So I prefer to go where there's atmosphere and I know I can get in. Greta Bar YVR. Soak up all the atmosphere with your fellow fans and enjoy a great night with a great street food menu. I prefer the poutine. Weekly drink specials as well at Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova. And we'll be having our viewing parties there all season long as well. Your pregame, your postgame, it's at Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center, and I have a feeling that it's time for some comfort food, Blake Price.
It is time because I'm starting to get my appetite back. I didn't have much of an appetite the last 48 hours, but I'm ready to take on some chicken pot pie again. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes thinking about the chicken pot pie at White Spot, so I'm going to go get me some. And it'll bring me great comfort, as does everything else on the comfort menu, like pot roast and mini Yorkies, braised beef burgers. Like, your mouth watering, folks? Yes, get especially on, you can sort of celebrate an American Thanksgiving. It's sort of a comforty, isk sort of menu to that.
It's like a pseudo holiday for us. So go on out and get a pot pie, some Yorkies, all that great comfort food at White Spot, and enjoy an extended weekend, much like they do.
Yeah,
they do Thanksgiving so much better, but we do White Spot better. Patrick Johnston is in the studio. Look, he's come all the way from Burnaby to join us in studio. The Canucks have an alumni luncheon, and
I do my thing.
It's great to see you
around.
It's great to see you here in the Nation Network studio. How you doing?
Very pleased to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to our
but I'm not used to sitting over here. When I come in for Rinkwide, I sit in your chair, Matt. Hope that's okay.
Oh,
no, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. So, yeah.
How do you like the medium-sized bed?
Little known fact here: we have these two beautiful ergonomic chairs, and I sit in the little chair. I like the old school.
It's because it kicks
chair.
back. It feels like my chair
Exactly.
in my office at home.
Okay, what do you know about Hronek?
Not much beyond what Irf has said.
How devastating an injury would this be for them?
It'd be massively devastating. I mean, it's your number 2 defenseman. Filip Hronek is not perfect, but I feel has been a pretty good choice as Quinn Hughes' partner. And he moves the puck. He knows what he's doing. He can do lots of things. I of course, would like him to shoot less into the opposition's shin pads, but that's a quibble.
He's got Edler disease there a little bit.
But no, it's a massive loss.
Who do you suspect plays with Quinn Hughes if he's unavailable? And we do. I mean, it's a quick turnaround here. They're playing in 24 hours. So.
I mean, I guess, is it a Tyler Myers assignment? I don't know. They don't have a lot of options. You're obviously going to be calling up probably Mark Friedman or maybe Cole McWard, I guess. And we'll see where Desharnais's at. He's on the trip. Was he coach's decision not playing the last couple of games, or he's still dealing with whatever he was dealing with?
Apparently was available. So
well, the key thing is Weil is doing a lot of lifting here in the statement from Irf.
Yeah.
What does Weil mean? Does Weil mean 2 weeks? Does Weil mean 6 weeks? Like he went on to follow up. Irf did say it's a non-surgical injury. It looks like. Still,
I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
the way he falls in the back of his shoulder, the immediate pain. Did he knock it out and needs to be popped back in? But staying up for a while is not a week to me. It's 6 weeks.
That's what pops in your mind. Yeah. It's sort of in the eye of the beholder at this point. Yeah.
So I know Myers hasn't looked great there in the past. I know, although it was some time ago, it must be said when Myers had any kind of, even reasonable run with Quinn Hughes as a pair, and Hughes is a much different player now too. And look, it's a lot of bad choices.
Yeah,
but the theory of Hughes and Hronek is that you want a guy who's not a total zero offensively and a total zero with the puck.
Yeah.
With Quinn Hughes, that you don't get the best out of Hughes unless you partner him with somebody who's got a little bit of puck skills, a little bit of mobility, right, and isn't just that granite block defenseman.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's Myers, right? That's got to be unless you want to go uber small with an Eric Brandstrom playing the offside, I think it's got to be Myers.
We've seen that for a couple shifts anyway. I mean, that was the other option, but I think realistically, if you want to keep left-right, and that's generally what they want to do, I don't think things are so desperate that you want Brandstrom there. I mean, who are you calling up on the left? You're calling up what, DPD? I mean, it's in this scenario, I think you're probably going to try to stay right-left, and that's where they'll go. And so Myers, because he's been there before, makes some sense. I mean, there was an idea somehow Desharnais would fit in there. I mean, it's not great options. I think Noel Juleson, you keep him as 6 and you work your way in between.
I was going to say
number 1 and your number 6, and you work your way between those two.
I was going to say this happened on the weakest side of the two. I don't know that there is a weakest side of the two anymore. Honestly, in the bottom 4, I don't know that there's much to separate any of the sides.
No, the bottom four are realistically both third pairings. You know, if Soucy were playing better, you could argue that he's at least a second pairing defenseman, but he hasn't played like one this season.
No.
And that's why there has been, them going on a search for a second pairing defenseman, which they've been doing for a while. When they were winning, it was easier for them not to have to think about it. And they were I'm not saying they're in a rush because of their situation. They knew they needed a defenseman, but they also wanted to make sure that the market didn't, overwhelm them. And so now they're in a situation where, I mean, listen, it is literally American Thanksgiving, right? We know the playoff meanings of where they're at right now. They're in the mix, but they're not comfortable. And so how much increased urgency do they now have to add a defenseman is where I'm at. And the options are not, I mean, obviously we saw Marcus Pettersson last night, but there in theory going to be more options the longer you wait, but how much longer can they really wait now?
Well, and in theory, Pettersson would be a nice add on the left side, but I think now you've got to address the right side.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, if you can find a right shot partner for Carson Soucy, who that brings, in the long run brings up your second pair. That's what you're looking for.
Right. So
but, a guy that's...
When Hronek comes back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But when you find a guy that's competent enough to... Or you can play a guy that's good enough to play with Hughes, and then you put Hronek with Soucy. You know what I mean?
Patrick, there's a school of thought they've waited too long already, right? Yeah. Because now you're dealing out of a position of weakness. Yes. Everybody knows you're missing your top right side guy, and that you think that could be devastating, like linchpin type stuff.
But when you leap right now, guys, where's the salary coming from? The salary cap space.
Because, well, that's the challenge.
You got LTIR available maybe with Hronek. I guess we don't know the extent of the injury, but
that doesn't make it comfortable when they're all healthy, right? So
no, of course not. But that's why I understood what he was trying to do with salary cap accrual and all of that. But to me, there was always an inevitability of LTIR.
I mean, right now they have 2.5, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can make things work.
Okay.
But, at the deadline, Puck P has got the projected to have 2.5. But I mean, they can probably double that at least. Like they can manipulate stuff around. The longer they wait, the easier it was going to be to manipulate stuff around. But they're now in a position where they're going to have to make some hard choices.
Yeah, I mean, it was just such a long road to deadline season to think that LTIR was not going to be a very real possibility for you.
Mm-hmm.
Nils Höglander for David Savard in Montreal. Who says no?
Montreal.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the price, I guess. Yeah. I mean,
you're over a barrel here.
Yeah.
Now, your head coach doesn't look like his brand of hockey is ever going to mesh with Höglander. He's on a very good contract this year. He's on a halfway decent contract going forward. He still has value. Like I know we're doom and gloom sometimes with Canucks fans when a player goes through a tough spell. But Nils Höglander has bounced back in the past. Yeah. He scored 25 goals last year, all of them at even strength. Every team can fit him cap-wise now and going forward with this extension that kicks in next year. And quite frankly, his warts, his flaws may be less pronounced in a different coach's system. Frankly, I think he's worth more than rental David Savard. But if you're so desperate for a right side defenseman, where are you going right now? Yurichek? Like, are you in the Yurichek sweepstakes? But they want to pick in a prospect. Like, that's a little bit.
I mean, to me, I said this earlier this week. I think if you can get Yurichek for a pick and a prospect, I think you do it. I mean, I have long been certain that Patrick Allvin is ready to trade his first round pick for next year. They recognize what this year means. The requirements of making a big trade probably means you're moving. I mean, if they play as well as they think they will be, that's a late first round pick anyway. It's obviously it's not nothing, but it's not like you're trading a top 5 pick. You're not trading Dylan Guenther or things like that.
But he's not demonstrably better than anybody. Like, we don't know how much better. Like, is he an upgrade anywhere, Dave? Yurichek in the now. In the now.
Yeah, well, he had a massive season in the AHL at the age of 20. Like, that's not something to ignore. Like he has shown talent at every other level, and he's been playing for a not very good team for the most part. So I'm very high on him. I think he's the kind of player they should be looking to add, and I see people I mentioned this the other day on Blue Sky, and people went, well, what about Wheelander? And are like, okay, yeah, but like right now, that Juracek is closer, even on where he's been, to sort of Hughes Hronek than Wheelander is, because Wheelander most likely, because all prospects are bad, is most likely closer to the bottom end of your defense core, right? Like even when he makes it. Now, that may be wrong. That may prove to be not the case, that he may prove to be a top defenseman. But you have to play on what you know and where you're at right now. And if you're playing to win right now, to me, trading for David Juracek is, in fact, a trade you do make. That's the kind of move you should make. And that's why I'm not that keen on trading for a guy like David Savard. David Savard's 34 years old. Like, his best days are behind him.
Does a first in DPD get that job done? Or are they going to ask for like a first in Wheelander?
I mean, that's what I assume it would be first in Wheelander, right? Like, DPD's fine.
Oh, you can't do that. But no, you can't do that. If you're giving up the first, it can't be a Wheelander, Lekranacki style prospect. Juracek, they have a market, but
the longer it goes, the easier it gets, right? Juracek would have gone by now, right? If they'd gotten their price, he would have gone.
Saravelli thought it was like imminent a couple of days ago, and now the word from Chris Johnston, is your namesake, is that it's
good man.
A pick and a prospect gets it done. Now, one of those things is going to be heavy artillery. It's either going to be a very good prospect and a lesser pick, or it's going to be a first-round pick and a bit of a lesser.
And I think realistically,
prospect.
the Canucks is a first-round pick and somebody else. Like, that's what the Canucks offer.
Yeah, well, no, I'm with Blake. Like, if a first in DPD gets it done, and you believe that Juracek is a top 4 right side defenseman, and the knock there would be the mobility, right? That some people just don't think he moves well enough, but 6'3", 210, like he's their kind of.
That's a Rick Talk shaped defenseman.
Yeah.
Arturs Silovs.
Yes.
Oh.
He doesn't make another start in 2024, does he?
No, I don't think he does. Listen, I've been around Rick Tocchet enough to know what his body language tells us, and the way he answered those questions last night told you everything. That he does it. He sees it. He is an empathetic coach. He cares about his players. He obviously has concern for the goalie, but the goalie is not performing. And there's just no way that they can put that guy in the net. Like that's what I saw last night. I said, this is a guy that's just like, oh man, they are now hoping that Thatcher Demko is back, next week, which was always kind of the best case scenario plan, was that by the beginning of December. But no, you can talk all you want about environment. Yes, there were some scrambles, but you got to make a save. Like, this is the Kevin Lankinen. This is why I wrote this morning. Kevin Lankinen, team MVP. Imagine where they would be without Kevin Lankinen, right? This we're not even having any of these discussions. And Kevin Lankinen, he's had a couple rough starts, but think about all the moments he's come up big, right? And that is what teams need, right? Every team has breakdowns. No team is perfect. Teams get big saves from their goalies, and Arturs Silovs made the big saves last spring. He's not making any right now.
And it's been that way with every start where you go, okay, some of them aren't on him, but boy, he's got to make that one, or you need to save it. Even Shilovs was saying that in the aftermath.
Yeah.
Is he missing Ian Clark?
Probably. Yeah. Marco Trenius is a well-regarded coach.
He struggled under Terranius last year at the
I think Clarkie, but there are good coaches, but it's like, I don't know. The thing I always used to say is, like, in high school, everyone meshed with a certain math teacher, right? You just needed teachers who taught you in a certain way, spoke to you in a certain way, and I just think Ian Clark clearly spoke to Arturs Silovs in the way he needed to be spoken to.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it for a while, in part because Lankinen has been so good. But I do wonder whether this franchise will rue the day they made the move with Ian Clark that they made at the beginning of the year. I know he's not of Rutherford's design there.
Nope.
I know it was a unique accommodation for a goaltender coach that the Canucks made under Aquilini and Benning. So I can understand Rutherford coming in and being a little apprehensive about that, going, okay, this isn't what I'm accustomed to. And, of course, Jim's an old goaltender himself with a lot of old goalie ties. But I just think they might have been a little too short-sighted there. And I know Ian can be a bristly personality, but I just have a feeling that they are going to regret what they did with Ian Clark, because I think he's absolutely gone from this organization at the end of the year, and he's going to be difficult to replace. Like, it's just a set of eyes and a way of teaching that specific position that I thought was a competitive advantage.
We've seen this twice before, right? Think about when he left the first time. They got lucky with Rolly Melanson, right? Rolly the goalie worked out.
But Ian was a different coach back then as well, Patrick. Like, Ian was very much, and it's funny to say, like, the word might be a little too strong and too soft at the same time. I don't want to say he coddled Roberto, but I can vividly remember Rolly saying to me one day at the rink, okay, so he's bad playing the puck. Are we just going to fucking accept that? No, we're going to work at it. We're going to find a way to make him better at playing the puck behind his net. You remember all the adventures, right? Yeah. And to Rolly's credit, Lou got better playing the puck, but the revamping of the style under Rolly was the big thing.
Yeah.
And Ian at the time was more sort of a caddy, a shoulder to cry on, like that sort of coach, a lovable, huggy coach. Sure. He has since gone on and become, goaltending guru in the NHL, and that has allowed him to be a little tougher and no, we're doing it my way. And so it was to watch the evolution of a coach was one thing, but also to watch the evolution of his proteges was something else, because he had nothing but success.
Yeah, and then Rolly came in, and then Rolly leaves, and they were kind of nowhere, right? Like, Dan Cloutier was said to be a good coach, but Dan Cloutier wasn't the guy. And then there's a reason why they brought Ian Clark back, because he, as you said, he become a better coach. He's gone away and become a better coach, and we've seen the results.
Get back.
It's 6 out of 7 goalies in Columbus have played in the NHL. I mean, he's got these, he's delivered here. He made Thatcher Demko better. He got Arturs Silovs into the NHL. I think you're absolutely right, Matt. They're going to miss him.
Canucks have got these 2 matinees coming up.
Yeah.
Which one does Thatcher Demko start?
Detroit.
Yeah, I was going to say Detroit. I have a hard time, Matt. They're off today. They're off today. They're flying to Buffalo. They play midday tomorrow. They play Detroit they'll have a practice on Saturday. Like, he's not going to go into this without a morning skate, and they're not going to have a morning skate on Sunday, but they'll have a practice on Saturday. That's the only thing. Or they just go Lankinen, and then he plays in Minnesota, because Minnesota, at least you have a morning skate and you can get the full routine. Like, that's the only thing that I think is sort of standing between him and starting, is that getting that full routine in there. Obviously, you haven't been there for practice, but you can just imagine where the progression's at. So to me, the only thing about if he's going to start matinees in Detroit, I think Matt's right on that. But I think more likely it would be, if he's going to start on this trip, it'll be in Minnesota.
Well, I think
he's got the patience because he's lasted this long. I don't think he's going to rush it, but no. I do wonder what a result tomorrow, or lack of a result tomorrow, does to the urgency to all this.
Well, we talked about it yesterday, Blake. It almost never happens anymore because we're into load management, and I get it. But if ever there was a time where you were going to play a goaltender on back-to-back nights, it was Kevin Lankinen yesterday. Given the way he played in Boston,
but
right?
Rick was asked about that, though, and he said, "No, I'm not doing
because
that."
He said I overworked him earlier in the year, and that's why his level dropped. So that was not the spot based on what Rick had said and what Rick had felt. A little bit of guilt of overplaying him, but you take those elements out of the equation, and getting Lankinen back in the cage as soon as possible is probably your best route to victory, and so I think for sure in Buffalo, and you hope Demko's ready in Detroit, because as Jeff said early in the week, it's not 4 and 6, guys, it's 4 and 5.5.
Yeah,
with the man.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's true. The only other thing I would say is, if you sit back and you look, what are you trying to accomplish out of this road trip? And was it to go 500?
Yes, I think you need 3 more points on this trip.
Right. So
3 more points on this trip gets you 7 of 12, and I think that's a successful trip.
Trip.
And Blake said 8 at the beginning of the trip, and I hear his mouth, because it's not exactly a murderer's row of teams. But I think anytime you can go over 500 on a road trip in the NHL, that's successful. So if you can get 3 more points, so a win and an overtime or shootout loss, maybe you get a break and you get a win there. But you get 3 more points on this trip, I think you feel good about yourself. But even then, you still have to deal with the Hronek,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well, the other
that's
thing-
what I mean. That's what I mean more than anything.
stuff,
You look
right?
at
The other
was
thing
this
I was thinking about, guys, though, watching last night's game go down and watching now the Hronek injury. What's JT Miller thinking watching all this?
right? Yeah.
And we don't know what the issues are, so we can't claim to think how crazy it is that he would come back earlier rather than later, without knowing the severity of it. We just don't know. But this can't be easy on him to watch his team faltering and losing a key player in the process.
Yeah, and I mean, even if he wasn't playing that well, he was still in the lineup, and
yeah.
I to me, damaged JT Miller is still better than the alternatives, which is like Niels Oman.
Right.
Like that's the standard he's set for himself, and he's still able to perform to a degree. And even if he wasn't playing well enough, and if that was, something he was struggling with, he'll be watching this and being like, oh man,
yeah. A week from tomorrow, they're back home against Columbus. Yeah. You think you see him there? So God tell you, we won't hold you to it.
You think so?
A week from tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
Don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no worries.
Came down to the studio for us. Anyway.
I don't know. I mean, you hear all the noise. I just don't think anybody other than JT and the team really knows.
Yeah, and you had a piece earlier in the week. It's unclear who the leave was at the behest of, right? Whether it was JT, whether it was the team, whether it was in combination.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I said initially, right off the bat, because there were sort of a lot of questions that I was trying to figure out, but nobody was really saying that, and it's still. I mean, Patrick Alvin talked a bit about it, but it's I think you're also parsing a guy that's it's sometimes not always on point with his English, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great seeing you. Thanks for the time.
Great to be here.
Mm-hmm. Are you avoiding me?
Avoiding you?
Yeah. The one day I'm off? Come on. Thank you.
You look pretty good in that chair. Pretty good fit.
It's comfortable. I like this.
If you are struggling with things like managing stress, anxiety, relationships, or divorce, reach out to the counselors at Advanced Counseling. Book your free initial consultation today at advancedcounseling.ca.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center, and hockey fans, the exciting news. We've been telling you about it. Mark your calendars, set your alarms. The Sheet with Jeff Merrick is coming your way. It starts December 2nd, noon Pacific. He's going to go live daily on the Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. NHL, PWHL, junior hockey, and lots going on there. The Sheet has you covered. Jeff's going to dive into the biggest storylines, the news, the rumors, the trends, the insights. He's got a lineup of incredible guests coming your way. Of course, Four Nations is coming up as well. So check out The Sheet starting December 2nd on the Daily Face-Off YouTube channel, and follow at The Sheet Hockey on all your favorite social media platforms. Well, joining us now, regret to say, the former head coach of Vancouver Whitecaps FC after the news this week. It is Vanni Sartini, and Coach, we'll start just 72 hours later. Where are your thoughts and emotions right now?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And thoughts and emotion are, where they were like probably yesterday and the day before. It's, of course, it's a little bit of a sadness and a little bit of a disappointment, because I was like, I thought that we could have continued at least till the end of my contract next year and do another good season like we did 3 good seasons. But at the same time, it is what it is, and being very, I would say, at peace with myself, having done the 100% of the things that I could have done, and also at the same time being, to be honest, really, really, really grateful for the time that I spent as a head coach of the Whitecaps.
Did you see it coming, Vanni? Did you think this was a possibility?
Yes and no. Let's say, we had a little bit of heaviness, especially in the last few games of the regular season, that they didn't go very well. And you could see that the environment was a little bit, I don't know. We went through difficult spell even in the past, but this time it was a little bit different. It was a little bit, nothing crazy, but you felt it a little bit more heavy. But to be honest, the playoffs were very good, and I think it re-energized everyone, like the team, the players, myself too, because at the end we didn't go through to the conference semifinal for inches, basically, for the team ball that goes on the post or on the bar. And so I thought that, okay, so that's we went over this lull, and then we are ready to go 100% from January and try to do another good season. But that was not the thought of the club, and we need to respect it.
I was worried about you going into the wild card game. If you had lost the wild card game, I thought, I wonder if that's going to be too much. When you just stampede Portland in the wild card game, I'm thinking, I think he's probably okay. Did that compute in your head too? Did you actually have that thought or no?
Yeah, a little bit, but again, I think then after the wild card game, we played 3 very good games against LA. We smashed LA FC here at BC Play.
Yeah,
and yes, but at the same time, I had it give you an example. At the game with LAFC when we won here, I wasn't with the team doing the Stand By Me in front of the fans because I really wanted to soak in all the stadium and walk around the stadium, because I had in the back of my mind probably that could have been my last game at BC Place coaching the Whitecaps. So it's soccer is a business of result. It's true. So, but the results were actually okay. But I think it's more a business of looking forward. So, and the club probably didn't think that, or they thought that they could do better looking forward with someone else. And I respectfully disagree, but it's okay.
Yeah. You've created a nice brand for yourself, and not just because of your personality. You've done enough winning here, I think, that people respect that part of your resume as well. Do you feel like another MLS team is going to come calling here? What's your expectation here over the next couple of months?
Well, I hope. Let me self-promote myself for a minute. I had the best record in the MLS history for the Whitecaps in this 3.5 years. We won 3 trophies. We won 3 times in the playoff. In the 3 years and 3 months that I've been the head coach, only 2 other teams in the Western Conference went at least 3 times in the playoff, and is LAFC and Real Salt Lake. So we've been very consistent, and we did very well. At the same time, I can say that I hope to stay in MLS. That's my first priority. I really like this league. I think it's a very underrated league in Europe. A lot of friends and people that work in the game in Italy, they as soon as they knew as soon as they read the news, they send me texts. So maybe now it's the time for you to come back home and to come back to Europe. I would say maybe, but if I could choose, I would like to stay here.
Yeah, you've always expressed great affection for our city, Vanni. Tell us a little bit about you and Barbara and your experience here, and you're going to still live here.
Yeah, I'm living a little bit of a paradox because I love the city and I really like to be here, but at the same time, we hope to stay here as less as possible, because it means that I get a new job. So that's the thing. But we really love it because people think that I've been the head coach for 3.5 years, but I actually worked for the Whitecaps for 6 years. So I've been living here for 6 years, and we really call Vancouver home. So that's how we love it here, and the fact that we had I would say such a great connection with the fan base, with the people of the community, has been fantastic. I received hundreds probably of message and posts and everything in the last 3 or 4 days, and some of them they were very I knew that I had an impact on this city, but I didn't know, people that say that I reconnected with my son because we both like the Whitecaps now, and we have something to think about, to talk about. And people that say, my dad is like 80 years old and he talk about you every single time, and now he's so upset because you got fired. So I really loved, and I really love, no, don't use the past now, the people of the city. And this is the hardest part, to be honest, because the soccer part, we know that you can coach a team, you can coach another team, you can be in the job or without the job for a few months, or stay in a better team or in a role in another role. The things that really hurt more for me and Barbara is that sooner or later we will need to leave here and to lose a little bit of the connection that we create here in the city.
Is it the tattoo's fault? Eric Hasley back in the day got a Vancouver tattoo and immediately was traded. You got your tattoo. I think we should blame the ink. I think it might have been the fault.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe like it happened the same, to be honest, when I lived in Chicago. I did the Chicago tattoo and then I moved here to Vancouver. So maybe something that the subconscious think that, oh, it's really, really, really your last I would say days here, so you need to really celebrate it.
Right,
but
maybe.
I'm really happy that I have also some ink on my body that will make me remember this city for all my life.
Can you tell us the mechanics of how this went down, Vanni? And do you believe this was Axel's decision in isolation? How was your relationship with him towards the end?
My relationship with him is very good, and I think at the Whitecaps, I'm really proud of the culture that we created, and I don't think that any decision is an isolated decision. So I think that, with Axel, we talked a little bit before I left from Italy, and, I say, hey, yeah, maybe I'm going to call you today. So I already felt it, that something was going to happen. And for sure, he spoke with probably with ownership, probably for sure, with ownership, with the key players, and in order to take the best decision. And and then when he communicated, actually, I was at the grocery store with my mom. So that's
gosh. Well, at least you had support around at the very least at that key moment.
And I could go for a little bit of Italian bread to just...
There you go. Drown your sorrows in Italian bread, yes. Your relationship with the players, you had some great ones. I think I have to think that you and Brian White connected. You just got the most out of him. Who are you going to most remember as a Whitecap?
Well, most, I would say all of them, because I have an anecdote or something that is special with all the players, not only the big one, like everyone can think about Brian, but a lot of guys that played less, a lot of young guys that came from the second team and then went to the first team, guys that came from completely different environment, like Yohei, like Bjorn, and I'm really happy that besides a lot of the players that are at the moment in the roster that they reach out to me and text me right after the news happened, a lot of also the players that I coached before, like Jevane Brown, Maxime Crepeau, Julian Gressel, they reach out. Nice. And so it's the beauty of this job that you can create relationship that last beyond your tenure as a coach.
The cat sounds more upset than you, Vanni.
Yeah. They are.
Hey, serious question for you, because we've had it for the entire MLS program here with the Whitecaps. We hear it from supporters all the time. Do you believe the tools are in place with this organization to be successful? Do you think this team can win at the highest levels of MLS, given what has been the budget and the expenditures on players?
I think we have to define what is successful. That's pretty simple. We have to define what is successful for the organization, and I think it's reasonable to define successful to be a team that goes to the playoff every time, that fights to get to the next round of the playoff, and that is within the reach of the Whitecaps. The other thing is that we don't have to be unrealistic, and we have to know that there's at least, I don't know, half of the team in the league that they have a spending power that is bigger than the Whitecaps. And it's not calling, and it is what it is. It happens in every league that we have big market and small market. We have teams that can spend $100 million and team can spend $20 million. So, the important thing is be, in my opinion, realistic on defining what success means.
But we've seen those small market teams win, right? I mean, there's no saying that those small market teams can't have full-on success.
Yeah. Especially in MLS, I think this question that Matt asked me, it's also linked to where the MLS will go. If the MLS stays being a league that it's very similar to the other big sport league in North America with salary cap, trying to create a sense of parity and try to give, I would say, guarantee to everyone to have a shot at the competition. Good. If the MLS goes to a kind of European way, more soccer way thing of anyone can spend whatever they want.
Yeah.
I think the opportunity for a club like the Whitecaps would go down a little bit, to be honest.
Well, Coach, we told you we wanted a proper goodbye here, and we also wanted to give you an opportunity to say whatever you will. A lot of Whitecap supporters listening, a lot of Vancouver sports fans here will be listening in.
A lot of Vancouver sports fans that you turned into Whitecaps fans.
Exactly. The floor is yours, Vanni, to say whatever you want to say here in parting.
Pretty simple. There's still a lot of my speech in the on the social media, so they can listen to me talk for hours and hours. At the moment, I just want to say that it was great, and I love them, and I will miss them. That's the only three things that I'm ready to say now.
Well, you were extraordinary with fans and media, Coach. We can't thank you enough for the last 3+ years. Top class, Vanni. Appreciate this.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.
If you are struggling with things like managing stress, anxiety, relationships, or divorce, reach out to the counselors at Advanced Counseling. Book your free initial consultation today at advancedcounseling.ca.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center, where if you're heading to a game in downtown Vancouver, make a staycation out of it. Book your stay here at the Wall. Call the hotel, 604-331-1000. Ask for the Sekeres and Price rate. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Well, going to be honest here. Going to miss Vanni Sartini immensely.
Yeah.
He was such an incredible communicator. He was such a the personality. He was just infectious.
He was a bright light. He was a bright light.
He sure was.
Yeah.
He sure was. So and not surprised in the least. That when I texted him and said, "Hey, do you want to come?" He immediately got back and said, "I would love to." I mean, everything he says there about our city and our community and his experience is real, authentic. That is him. So we'll miss him. Speaking of the Caps, some player options. We mentioned this yesterday when we recorded the segment yesterday on the Caps. They had not yet announced that they are picking up the player options or club options on Takaoka, the goalkeeper, young Bomer, the other goalkeeper from Penticton, Diber Caicedo. I know Caicedo, did that catch you a little off guard, Blake, that they're bringing back Caicedo?
Yeah, a little bit. He certainly wasn't that used after rejoining the club, and yet I guess they might exercise that option because they feel like there's transfer possibilities there. So that's a possibility.
They did not pick up the options on Fafa Pico, Alessandro Schaff, Bendik Priso, Ugando. They are still talking with Fafa Pico. And is it fair to say that Pico was a bit of an awkward fit in Vanni's system, Blake, that maybe with the new coach, Pico would be more inclined to return here?
I mean, he had a career season, so I don't know if he had an awkward fit. I mean, he was absolutely a charmed season for Fafa Pico. But I think people might have missed this in the release. His option was not picked up. Again, as you said, they are still negotiating. He's not gone. People are like, I can't believe they're letting Fafa go. They're trying not to let Fafa go. They just don't want to necessarily go with that contract. So he's 33, and speed is his secret weapon. How much speed is he going to continue to have going forward? So I think they're still talking with Shilov and Price as well. So you never know, but they want it on different terms, obviously. So we'll see if Pico can come back. They're talking with Ryan Raposo as well, who also had a career year, but may still be looking to climb a rung further, and he may not be able to see that here.
Raposo was a pure free agent. His mother's Chinese. There's been some talk about the Chinese league being involved there with Raposo. The only reason I say that on Pico is just, at the midway through the season, it sounded like he was looking for a trade, and they didn't oblige, and he got better from there. The team got better from there. So
they used him more too. I think he went through a spell where they just were, Vanni wasn't feeling it with him for some reason, and he didn't find his way into the starting 11 as much. But second half of the season, he was pretty widely used. So we look at now December the 9th, the half-day trade window. 4 hours of frenetic trade activity potentially from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Should we get Maggie the monkey ready, Blake? We're going to have a Trade Center special.
Yeah.
So offseason comes fast and furious in MLS because it's so bloody short. Like, you can already count in weeks before they are on the pitch training for season 20.
Well, and they've got CONCACAF, too. The CONCACAF Champions draw is December the 10th, and then they'll find out exactly the dates that they start to play, which could be, I think there's a chance that it could be like amongst the last couple of days in January, most likely first week of February, but they're going to be back at it playing a meaningful match, in 2.5 months. So it's not long.
Let's hope BC Place is available on that
2 months,
day.
I guess. Yeah, and that too.
One of the things that we're very proud of here at Sekeres and Price is our internship program. This extended well beyond our time here in the digital space, back to when we were on radio. Blake and I both had hands up in the business, so we like to pay it back. And joining us is White Rock's Jacob Fraser. He's from BCIT. You've been here for the last 3 weeks?
Yeah.
How was your experience?
It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed my time doing the internship here. I feel like I've learned a lot working with Mike and working with Jacob in the back. It's been a really good experience so far.
And you've bounced around. You've done a rink-wide thing too. Convo.
Yeah.
You've looked in on Canucks conversation too.
Yeah. Done a little bit of convo as well. Everything's been a lot of fun, and just learned a ton so far.
You're a big Canucks fan?
Oh yeah.
So, give me the 2 cents. What do you think? Time to trade Nils Höglander?
I don't know. I feel like obviously last year he scored 20 plus goals. He had a really good year. I love the way he works. Like, he works so hard every shift on the forecheck, but he does have a lot of those lapses in the D zone. He loses some battles, can't get pucks out. He can't get pucks deep through the neutral zone, but I feel like if you move him now, you're going to be selling low on him, which you never want to do as a franchise. So I think you got to hold on to him and maybe give him another look in the top 6.
So you vote no on a poll question.
He's got to work smart, not just hard, though, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, delighted having you here over the last 3 weeks, Jacob. Thank you for your efforts, and all the best during the holiday season.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jacob.
It's Jacob Fraser, our most recent intern from BCIT. Blake, Kelowna Rockets going to host the Memorial Cup in 2026.
I saw that. I knew you'd be so excited.
Well, so look, here's the thing. First of all, I was glad to see Kelowna get it because Kamloops hosted it just last year, right? So this is 2 Memorial Cups in 4 years in the province of British Columbia. Who knows what the Memorial Cup is going to look like here in a couple of years with the revolution happening in junior hockey. It's the second time that this franchise is going to host the Mem Cup. They held it in 2004 when they won it all with a defense that featured Shea Weber and Josh George's pretty good players. I'm going to guess scoring was difficult against the Rockets that year.
Can you imagine if that year, in honor of Matt Sekeres, they go to an 8-team winner bracket?
Well, I'm 4-team, but I would be...
That's over in 2 seconds. Come on, it's over in 2 days.
Well, it's a weekend. It's 3 games. It's like the Final Four. But I would be willing to indulge an 8-team bracket. So you take your 2 finalists in every league, and then the committee takes 2 wild cards. I'd be okay with that. I just don't love the round robin format over 2 weekends. That said, at least it's in Kelowna in late May. Absolutely beautiful, right? Like, that is at least a destination as opposed to, where they sometimes hold the Mem Cup. High school football, we say it every year, just absolutely charmed that the final organized football games in this country each and every year are the BC High School Football Championships. They get going Friday at BC Place. You got the junior varsity teams, the Robert Bateman Timberwolves and the John Barsby Bulldogs, and then it's the New West Hyaks. Who built that? And the Vancouver College Fighting Irish, so a battle of heavyweights there from the Lower Mainland. And then Saturday, the Vernon Panthers, the Windsor Wolves in the Double A Championship and the Triple A final between Vancouver College and South Delta. South Delta had a thrilling 2-point play in the dying minutes to beat Moat and advance 43-42 in the semi. It was a heck of a football game. We are at Northern Star Award time. Blake, of course, formerly the Lou Marsh Trophy, given to Canada's best athlete, calendar year 2024. And really, there is no competition this year. 18-year-old Summer McIntosh, she was 17 when she won 3 gold medals and a silver at the Paris Olympics. And that you may remember they finished 4th in the 4x100 medley relay. That denied McIntosh from tying Cindy Klassen's record for most medals won by a Canadian Olympian in a single Olympics. So, fully anticipate that Summer McIntosh is going to be the Canadian Athlete of the Year, the Northern Star Award. She will also win the Canadian Press Female Athlete of the Year. But the Male Athlete of the Year, buddy. And let me just give you the candidates.
Okay.
I know you haven't researched this in depth, but just, your first blush.
Here. Yeah.
So you got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the defending Northern Star Award winner. You got Nanaimo's Ethan Katzberg, one of just 2 male individual gold medalists at the Paris Olympics. Of course, Vancouver's Philip Kim in the breakdancing. Phil Wizard was the other one. You got 3 hockey players, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, who did win the Hart Trophy, and then West Vancouver Sam Reinhart, who, of course, scored all those goals and then won a Stanley Cup. And then the Winnipeg Blue Bombers running back Brady Oliveira, who pulled off the rare double, only the 4th Canadian ever to win the CFL's Most Outstanding Player Award. He also took home the Most Outstanding Canadian Player. So just first blush of those names, where are you going?
Trying to think if you missed anybody first, but nothing too egregious there. They are so reticent, I think, to go NHL. It has to be spectacular for them to go NHL.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think anybody there makes it. I think Brady Oliveira's got a good shot. I think Brady Oliveira had such a fantastic season. I'd love to know when the last CFL winner of that award was. Did Cornish win it? Way back in the
Cornish
day?
did win it. Yes, I believe John Cornish did win it.
But that's what, 7-8 years ago probably at this point?
Give me a second. I will look it up. I think it's more than that even.
Is it? Okay, yeah. So, they wouldn't confess to this, but I do think they like to move this award around just a little bit unless they're forced into it, which is why Shea Gilgeous-Alexander won't win it again because, well, A, they didn't have any success at the Olympics, and he's coming off a win. So,
yeah, I mean, if Oklahoma City went deeper in the playoffs, if they had better success in the Olympics, then I think Gilgeous-Alexander would have been a very good candidate here. Cornish won it in 2013, incidentally. You talk about hockey players winning it. Connor McDavid has never won it.
Wow. Then they might feel obliged.
Go back to 2015, Carey Price won it. In 2015, Sidney Crosby won it in 2009. In fact, Sidney's won it a couple times, won it in 2007 as well. Katzberg from Nanaimo was terrific. Of course, if you watched the hammer throw there was a whole lot of futility from his competitors. You may remember his first throw wound up winning the gold medal. Yeah, exactly.
And so even he was pretty futile after that because he just kept on trying to go big.
Like
so.
it was not exactly a commercial for the sport, with great throw after great throw. I hear you on Oliveira. Hey, the NHL Player Awards, certainly the Hart Award, we don't take playoffs into account. Sam Reinhart finished just off the Rocket Richard Trophy. Austin Matthews won it, but then went about and won a Stanley Cup. Yeah, I know they've been reticent with NHLers in the past, but I think Reinhart is a good candidate here for CP Male Athlete of the Year. Are wins in Boston still sweeter than other regular season wins? Our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question from Wednesday. What did the people say, Blake?
They said yes.
Indeed. Percentage?
56.
78.
Whoa.
I know. Alea, no, it's just another win. 2011 was too long ago now. Winning in Boston in 2024 will not change the outcome of the 2011 finals. Be satisfied that we accumulated 2 points this evening and move on to the next game. Real Slim Shady says, I think both your options should have been yes and yes. Milner says no. Beating teams like Edmonton, Calgary, and Toronto are better. And then Random Scrub, as long as Marchand is there, yes, once he retires. Basically the same thing as beating the Rangers and Islanders.
You know what this tells me? Our listenership and viewership is old.
Yep.
These are people that remember 2011.
Mm-hmm.
The 21-year-olds are voting no.
Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. Frank Corrado never played against Jake DeBrusk. I misspoke and said PHWL, of course, PWHL. Yerke is calling you for calling JT Miller a Pennsylvania native.
Yeah.
He's, of course, born in East Palestine, Ohio, as our old friend Greg.
Palestine.
Okay.
Yes.
As our old friend Greg Bell, who's from Steubenville, Ohio, will tell you, a lot of Eastern Ohio very much relates with the Yinzer culture there in West PA and Pittsburgh. But yes, he is on the Ohio side of the line. And then last week, I said there were 3 teams that hold 3 first-round picks in this 2025 NHL draft. It's actually 2. Calgary's being forced to move their pick to Montreal this year, Sean Monahan, because at least I think it was Sean Monahan. Gosh, maybe another error and omission. Because their pick last year fell in a range that they were allowed to protect it. So it's Nashville and Philadelphia that are sitting on 3 first-round picks in the 2025 entry draft. Calgary has 2. None of them, they're indigenous picks. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with us. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Blue Sky. Live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific, weekdays, except for tomorrow. With that early Canucks start, we will be 11 a.m. tomorrow. And please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.